This video is going to be a film study look at the Ravens' specific and very intentional use of a dime personnel on defense. There's been more usage or more deployment of that through 4 games than I remember in the last 2 years combined with Mike Macdonald. Not that we didn't ever get into a dime look, but Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith pretty much never came off the field. Patrick Queen was the boundary side inside linebacker. I will show some plays of a typical nickel defense that the Ravens use often as well in 2024, but I think that replacing the boundary side inside the linebacker with the safety, like a Kyle Hamilton, does a number of things. Number one, it creates incredible flexibility. It takes advantage of our great depth at the DB spot. Brandon Stephens, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins as outside corners. And those 3 guys all played a lot against the Bills on Sunday night. At the safety position, we are filthy rich with Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton, Eddie Jackson, Arthur Millette when he does come back healthy, Ardarius Washington. Really incredible if you ask me depth. I think that the Ravens made a decision after a handful of plays to play more dime, and I will show a couple of those plays that I believe led to that decision. And it will not be targeted at Trenton Simpson specifically, but with Marlon Humphrey, Ardarius Washington healthy, and Arthur Millette when he comes back, it kind of doesn't make sense to have 2 of those 3 guys be off the field. Additional to that, if we're going to get smooth, smart, very savvy, almost veteran-type play from Nate Wiggins, we want to see him get on the field as well. If we stop or slow down the run, which we generally have in 2024, we're going to be in a bunch of 3rd and 6s. I want to see more dime. I want to see more dime usage than what we're getting. As an aside or a corollary to that, Friday night I think I will do a show with Ken from Film Study Ravens. Shout out to him because he has been a person who's talked about dime usage for at least 2 years since I have been blessed enough to be invited onto his show. I'm quite sure that he's got to be pleased with the numbers. I don't know the yards per play yet. Perhaps that information is out there. I would guess that it is. I'm sure that Ken will have that. If he doesn't have it broken down already, he'll have it by that point. So shout out to him for that. He's been the person, or one of the people, I think, that talked about dime the most. Other than myself, at least leading up to 2024, once we drafted Nate Wiggins, it seemed obvious to me that getting Kyle Hamilton on the field with all the safeties we have was in our best interest. Humphrey in the slot as the nickel as well, I think, is one of the advantages. If him, Wiggins, and Stephens are healthy, we've got a great trio to throw at people. So let's look at a little bit of dime here so I can explain what it is. If you don't know, the ball generally spins between 65 and 70% of the time on a hash, probably more in some cases, depending on the level of football. So this is a dime iteration for the Ravens, week 1, 3rd and 5 against the Chiefs. Now you may say, well, Coach, the ball's not on a hash. That's correct. The ball is actually in the middle of the field. The Ravens have Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams, Ardarius, Kyle Hamilton, 4 safeties, all on the field with Brandon Stephens, Marlon Humphrey. So 6 DBs, 1 inside linebacker, Roquan Smith. Talked about this particular play. It's a nice read by Ardarius Washington. It allows us to put Kyle Hamilton on a tight end. We'll come back to that a little bit later here. End zone angle, so you can see you still have a 4-man rush possible. You can still also threaten a 5-man rush with the remaining inside linebacker. In this case, I think it's Matabike and then Owe, a little bit of a late hit perhaps on Mahomes that doesn't get called. Great play by Ardarius Washington on Xavier Worthy. Some more nickel iterations. Now this is Trenton Simpson with the ball on the right hash. He's a will linebacker into the boundary. By the way, that's Roquan Smith up there to the field by himself on the number 1. That's a running back. So it's an empty formation. End up being a sack by Owe. Early in the game, strip sack, pretty much first play of the game. We play a lot of nickel. The NFL, well, I think NFL numbers are like 63, 64% nickel. But one of the reasons why I believe that Zach Orr and the staff have gone to more dime is manipulating matchups, determining matchups. So, and that basically means getting Kyle Hamilton to the boundary where you can't just attack us with a tight end. Now, this happens to be a nickel defense. I'm still kind of establishing the difference between nickel and dime. There's your 2 inside linebackers. And then here is Hamilton down to the tight end. This is my favorite version of cover 3, by the way. Notice the string relationship that Van Noy and Roquan Smith are on. You get a blitz by Trenton Simpson. And so we've created the 4 underneath droppers here from top to bottom. Jackson, Roquan, Kyle Van Noy, Kyle Hamilton. Creates a free rusher for Oweh off the edge. Ends up being a sack. So the nickel, it's not that the nickel defense doesn't work. I think dime offers us all of the versatility and possibly more speed and better coverage overall. If you have so much wealth at safety, why not take away a side of the field, in this case the boundary? I think the Ravens were persuaded, let's put it that way, to make this choice by a couple of plays we saw here against the Raiders. Again, not to pick on Trenton Simpson. He's, I think, having a good year for us. He had 5 tackles against the Bills the other night. Talked about this after the loss to the Raiders. The manipulation with the eyes, Gardner Minshew, these guys are moving. I think it's Eddie Jackson and Trenton Simpson. They are easily moved, by Gardner Minshew. Not even a serious pump fake. He knew what the defense was going to do. It ends up being a 15-yard gain out to the right-hand side. That is just eye discipline by Simpson, but this is the play that I'm talking about. So we actually are in our nickel look. Kyle Hamilton is the nickel. He's up here to the side where there are 2 receivers. To the bottom side of the field, Trenton Simpson matched up against Brock Bowers. Nice win for Bowers on a 3rd and 5. If you were to extrapolate Nate Wiggins being healthy to play here, because I don't think he played that week, we probably are in a different situation in terms of the matchups. This is probably Kyle Hamilton down here on Bowers, Humphrey over here as the nickel, and then Nate Wiggins down here is the outside left corner. That, to me, is probably our best pass defense look, and I think also creates, quote, more coverage snaps because of better coverage skills overall for the defensive front. So now we're moving to the Bills film. Forgive me that it took so long to get there. I wanted to establish the difference between nickel and dime. We are, in fact, in our nickel look here. First possession for the Bills. It's a 3rd and 2, empty, as you note. 2 receivers to the downside. Hamilton is the boundary side safety. Here's Williams, the field side safety. The nickel defender is Marlon Humphrey up here. Wiggins, left outside corner. Brandon Stephens, right outside corner. We defend the boundary extremely well here, such that Josh Allen only gives a cursory look over here to Khalil Shakir on the obvious pick or shield concept. Comes back to it. Credit to Trenton Simpson. He's in the window. He's creating a little bit of disruption there for Josh Allen to try to throw that ball back over the middle to Kincaid, the tight end. So it's not that we're not going to see Simpson on the field, but the dime look, what I'm focusing on here, I think utilizes our current personnel better if everyone's healthy, that is. Second possession here, a great job, if you ask me. First of all, Marlon Humphrey. If you don't recognize yet, or if you're not aware of how well he's playing like a warrior. And it's the physicality. He's trying to make contact with the tight end here. Kincaid gets dislodged briefly and then turns to catch up. It's not there. Number 1, number 2. Brandon Stephens chasing all the way across the field. Kyle Hamilton is able to sit here and potentially cover this route up into the flats. And then, of course, it's Kyle Van Noy who's getting the quarterback hit. That's our nickel defense. Very next play, dime. We actually give up the first down here. The target is Kyle Hamilton versus Dalton Kincaid. It's a pick, rub, screen, whatever you want to call it, whereby Mac Hollins is running to the outside shoulder of Hamilton. I've broken this play down twice already, so I feel like I'm stealing content here. Josh Allen throwing the ball out into the flats to Kincaid. It's a pick. You can't really expect Hamilton to necessarily win that matchup. Otherwise, other than that, I thought Nate Wiggins and Kyle Hamilton handled all those pick rub concepts extremely well. Now, the ball's in the middle of the field here, so it changes this dynamic a little bit. And watch what the Ravens are in from a coverage standpoint. We are in man. It almost has a glitch blitz flavor because Hamilton is stepping here and then dropping out. Additional to that, I think it is Matabike stepping down and then dropping out, but it could be Travis Jones on the other side. It's a 3-man rush on a 3rd and 7. It was Matabike. My apologies. You can see the 3-man rush. Van Noy, Jones, and then the DN from the other side. We're playing man across the board, but we've got underneath droppers to get in windows. Probably one of those guys is a spy, or they probably have spy rules, basically to to sling the coverage if Josh Allen rolls out to his right, the defense's left, and Hamilton would go get him, and the other two guys would just move their coverage to replace. The versatility, I think, is what I want to highlight, or at least try to mention and explain. Maybe other people have talked about it a lot. Dime, I think, offers a wider array of coverage possibilities. Post-snap, number one. Number two, it puts pressure on Wiggins and Humphrey and Stevens to play outside corner and play a lot of snaps. If we did it the other way, and Hamilton was our nickel defender on a lot of these coverage snaps, particularly important third downs, one of either Humphrey or Wiggins is going to be off the field. Version of cover three here. It could be called match three, whatever you want to refer to it at. This is the Ravens nickel. So now Hamilton is the boundary side safety. Simpson is on the field, but Marlon is still the nickel defender with Wiggins playing left outside corner. So 1st and 10. Marlon is definitely matching the width of this route, but he's got eyes in here to the quarterback. Like I said, I would call that cover three. Marcus Williams, Roquan Smith in the middle here. Simpson pushing the flat. So Josh Allen's taking that window in between Simpson and Roquan. Throws it a little bit behind Hollins. Wiggins clearly could have had an interception. I would say that this is a nickel version of cover three. Somewhat anomalous for us because we're pushing the field side safety down to the right hash. Him and Roquan are hash defenders. Curl flat for Marlon Humphrey. Curl flat for Trenton Simpson, although I do think there's a match element to this that essentially is turning into man for those two guys. 5th possession, back into our dime look. I've seen this one highlighted on social media, and I actually talked about it in another video. Kind of batshit crazy stuff here from the Ravens. We're in our dime look. A couple of moments ago, I showed you a dime look where we rushed 3. I think it was a 3rd down as well. This one is a 3rd and 8 on the Bills' 5th possession. You can see Josh Allen has brought in the tight end to be with the running back to protect. I call that jokers. We're in our mug look, and we're going to roll the safety down and then bring Marcus Williams back to his free safety position. I would say this is a 3 deep, 3 under. Don't think of that as a zone. It's still a match philosophy, but here is your 3 under defenders. It's natural for the outside linebacker dropping out to have less depth. Why? Because he's lined up at the line of scrimmage, number 1. Number 2, he's also not someone who is completely comfortable dropping into coverage like a safety or a linebacker. So you have this string nature of Ardarius Washington spinning down to the curl flat area, Marcus Williams rolling back to basically replace him, and Kyle Hamilton opening to the side where there's more receivers, the 2 receiver side. Him and Ardarius Washington have essentially, for a moment, briefly bracketed this number 2 receiver, funneling him into the free safety. There's a lot of good leverage that happened against the Bills from a reaction standpoint to the routes. We have no idea what routes are going to be run pre-snap. At this point in the season, I think there's less predictability. I thought the Ravens were matching leverage and playing on the correct side the overwhelming majority of the time. Still in our dime look, this is 5th possession. It's a 1st and 10. We have walked up Roquan as the potential 5th rusher. That is the piece that, I don't want to say concerns me, but it's the piece that I think will be interesting to see how this shakes out. If we go dime, this is the dime linebacker. Kyle Hamilton. Ball is on the left hash. Field side, wide side is to the top, so that's where the nickel is. Ardarius Washington. We still have our 2 safeties on the field. Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams, and our 2 outside corners. If we go with a dime look, I'm interested and somewhat concerned about how often we put Roquan on the line versus how often we actually blitz him. So he's there to occupy and force a particular pass pro reaction out of the offensive line. That's one of the reasons they do it, to force the offensive line to do a certain thing to the side or away from the side where the running back lines up. If we subtract one of the inside linebackers from that spot, we basically are playing with 2 nickel defenders. Kyle Hamilton to the boundary and the nickel to the field in the case of Marlon Humphrey, or in this situation, Ardarius Washington. Nice job passing off these routes by Ardarius Washington and Roquan Smith. Back releases to the flats. First to the flats is what Ardarius has got. So he releases Shakir inside. Roquan takes him over. Shakir tries to run underneath. Roquan staying with him. Incomplete pass. up the left sideline to Mack Hollins. Still fifth possession, another dime look. This is going to be Van Noy with a brilliant inside spin. Inside move and then a spin back to the outside. It's 3rd and 10. Dime seems completely appropriate on 3rd and long. I get it. I think there is still some usage out here for us on 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, or even 3rd and 5. Basically, show the offense, show the opposing team's offensive coordinator what they can and cannot run or try to get accomplished on a particular snap. Inside move by Van Noy, and then the spin back to the outside wins the rep. We've spun Marcus Williams down to the boundary side flats. Kyle Hamilton playing in the middle of the field with Roquan Smith. You will see a different quality of coverage from Roquan Smith if he has someone more connected to him. Basically, better spacing in terms of second-level defense. Quick explanation, in our nickel defense, the boundary side inside linebacker oftentimes was playing man on the running back, or in some cases a tight end, and Roquan will be playing zone or match coverage to the field. There's just too much space. He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I don't attribute a ton of the early season coverage problems to Roquan Smith. I think we're moving back in time on this one a little bit. My apologies. It is a dime look. Ball's on the left hash. Marlon Humphrey is a nickel defender. Kyle Hamilton dime to the boundary. 3rd and 2. Kyle Hamilton's going over the top of what appears to be a potential pick or rub concept here. I am worried a little bit about us flowing over the top quickly, and next week them getting the outside release and then bringing this tight end back underneath. So we'll see what the Bengals do, how they attack us. It's going to be a new paradigm for Cincinnati. They struggled, that's obvious to anyone, with Mike McDonald's defense the last 2 years. Totally slowed down, in some cases shut down their passing attack. This is a different flavor of the same recipe. The dime is going to open up more post-snap options for the Ravens and potentially more things for Burrow to have to process. They, the Bengals, probably sat all off season studying what the Ravens have done to slow down Burrow's post-snap processing. I hesitate to use the word confuse. They don't confuse quarterbacks. They force them to go through their processing a little bit slower than normal, and the pass rush can get there. That's why the Ravens had 100 sacks combined, I think, in 2022 and 2023. Now there's almost a different thing for them to study. There's 4 games film of it. What is the percent usage of dime? I would guess 10 to 12%. It might be more. I don't know. The Ravens have certainly been in the lead a lot. I don't think we were in dime a ton in the second half against the Raiders. I didn't see many of those labeled dime. I've tried to I've tried to label and categorize the dime and nickel plays, and I was able to find, I think, 23, something like that. I'm sure there's more. I don't have every single defensive snap categorized at this point. Fourth quarter, game's pretty much over at this point, even though there's 11 minutes left. I know that we all felt a little nervous about the situation, but really the game was over at 28-10. The Bills had the ball on the right hash. So again, Hamilton is the dime linebacker, nickel defender Ardarius, and now on this particular snap, I think Marlon Humphrey is the left corner. So there's a lot to try to gather intel on for the opposing team's offense as the offensive coordinators. Marlon Humphrey could be here. Marlon Humphrey could be the left corner. Kyle Hamilton could be the dime linebacker into the boundary. He could also be here. Kyle Hamilton could also be the boundary side or left side safety. You see what I'm doing, showing you that not only are there different coverages that occur post-snap based on pre-snap alignment, but there's also just different platforms that we do all of those things from. I think Zach Orr has the potential with this defense this year. I'm not going to say, be better than 2023. That's ridiculous. But we have the potential to show just as many pre-snap to post-snap changes to the offense such that quarterbacks, really good quarterbacks like Josh Allen, almost throw interceptions on stuff like this. This is fourth quarter. Yeah, they're trying to make a play. It is a 1st and 10, I believe. Almost an interception by Brandon Stephens. We're rolling the boundary side safety down. Not sure what's going on with my screen. Forgive me for the flickering effect. Marcus Williams rolling to middle of the field. Basically, I would say it's a match cover 3 to down here to the bottom side. Brandon Stephens is releasing the number 1 receiver underneath from trips. He's releasing Hollins underneath and then covering this 3 smash to the tight end. Almost intercepted by Stephens. Great job of passing off the routes. You can see Roquan has gone ahead and left his area to go with Shakir. Ardarius did not do the same thing with Mac Hollins, but Josh Allen's throwing the football nonetheless. If it's not Brandon Stephens there to potentially get interception, I think Marcus Williams has the chance to possibly undercut it. Do you think that I'm overstating the impact of the dime defense? It's possible that I am. We have a small sample size. We did use it some against Mahomes and those guys in week 1. I thought it was effective for the most part. We didn't seem to be in our dime look early in the game. As far as speed, does it actually get more speed on the field? I mean, Trenton Simpson is ridiculously athletic. He's got a bright future in our defense. I actually want him to get as many reps as possible. At this point in time, though, we almost resemble an NBA defense that kind of at a certain point needs to go small. Maybe our dime look, saying that our dime look is an example of going small is not accurate, because Kyle Hamilton in no way, shape, or form can be considered going small. I think there's opportunities to get Trenton Simpson on the field. I believe there was one snap he was on in dime, maybe week 2 against the Raiders. Roquan was off the field for a snap, but perhaps it was the Cowboys. My memory is incorrect. If you think I'm overstating the dime defense and its potential impact, let me know in the comment section. I'm excited by it for a lot of reasons. Proper utilization of our depth, number 1. Number 2, potentially more speed on the field. Number 3, more things for the offensive coordinator and the quarterback to have to consider. Is it nickel? Is it dime? Where is Kyle Hamilton? Where is Marlon Humphrey? What matchup do I want? I think that's the same game that Mike Macdonald plays in a lot of ways. It's just being played from a different angle by Zach Orr, and he played it perfectly against the Bills on Sunday night. Let me know what you think of my thoughts there and the way that I tried to break down most, if not all, of these plays. The difference between nickel and dime defense, hopefully I explained it adequately. If I did not, please let me know in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study breakdown of the Ravens' dime defense, not necessarily new, but new utilization of it, higher percent deployment of a dime linebacker to the boundary. If you think Ravens fans would enjoy it and you'd like to see this content get pushed out to larger audiences, you can do 2 things. Number 1, you could grab the link to this video, share it out on social media. That would obviously help. Number 2, comments and likes drive engagement and drive the videos to get pushed out to larger audiences. So if you appreciate my work or you enjoyed it and you want to see this content gain more reach and exposure, then either share the link out on social media or like and comment if you haven't subscribed already to help me out. Appreciate you guys' time.